Hello everyone, welcome to another Best of 3 broadcast exclusively for YouTube. This comes from the Alima League replay pack, as they usually do on this channel, and I do heavily advise you to go ahead and visit patreon.com/olemole to get your hands on these very special replays. This is a not broadcasted match. I don't believe anyone broadcasted it during the actual Alima League. Broadcasted, actually, I don't think is a word. It's broadcast is the past tense. But anyways, so we're seeing this just brand new, but I do believe it is a matchup we've seen before, as these guys seem to be facing each other an awful lot lately in these online tournaments. In the bottom right, as the red Terran, he is Dream. In the top left, as the blue Protoss, it is Creator. Having that barcode, you gotta have some way of identifying your name in the Alima League, so usually they just use clans. Well, still annoying for us, the observers, but I got you guys. Just a reminder, every single time we look down there, who's that blue Protoss? It's Creator. And Creator, as some of you may know, some of you may not, depending on how ingrained in the scene you are, how much of a veteran you are in the scene. Creator really had his heyday years ago and then never really lived up to his full potential, to be honest. So even if you were paying attention to StarCraft back in, oh boy, 2011, I'm not sure, long time ago, it's possible that you kind of wrote him off, as many did. He was kind of, at one point, not exactly a meme isn't the right word, but Artosis was really, really a big fan of this guy, and as I said, never really reached his full potential. As definitely also just, I mean, they had Marine King, right, on his team, so he just couldn't shine as bright as that guy during the early years of StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty, but he has been playing forever, and occasionally he comes back up. You know, he'll come into an Alima League or any of these other online broadcasts, tournaments, either Korean or not. I think he sometimes plays in some North American stuff, but I could be wrong about that. Maybe just once or twice. But the point is, Korean server, obviously the best thing for them. And while the North American time zone can be okay for Koreans, yeah, playing on the Korean server is the best, which is why the Alima League is definitely the go-to. That, and that it's got a pretty hefty prize pool, and they really trust the organizer, Ole Moly. So we get the best of the best when it comes to the Alima League every week. But yeah, Creator occasionally does okay here, but someone else is doing really, really okay, better than okay, and that person is Dream in the Alima League. So I'm looking forward to this TvP. As I said, they faced each other before, haven't cast it in a couple weeks, however, so what do they got new to show each other? First off, we're starting off with a little bit of that Adept harassment. Ephemeron, one of the middle of the road maps in terms of that rush distance, but Adepts certainly can get over quickly with that shade ability, and this is not a map with a high ground at all. Not that would have made that much of a difference. Dream playing awfully greedy here, not just going for no bunker as an opener. Adepts did not choose a shade in, but also not going for any type of defensive structure from that factory. The Wood of Mine is definitely a little bit difficult to actually make work against this early defense, and then of course it's only going to be able to kill one of the Adepts as long as Creator doesn't let them splash on top of each other. So it's not very reliable, but thankfully after a couple of rounds of Marines and with some help from the SCVs, 2 Adepts are very, very low on that health. Now they're regaining their shields, and they'll still be a threat, especially as a third Adept comes forward. Oracle comes forward as well, and what's not here? Too many Marines, but ooh, that Wood of Mine does get the splash on 2 Adepts, kills both of them. This one very, very weak. The Oracle will get to just go to town on these SCVs, not in a good way. But luckily it is a 3-shot, and there's a second Wood of Mine, which Creator does see. I guess that's actually the third Wood of Mine. One over here too, probably expecting that Stargate follow-up, not because he scouted it. Dream with absolutely no scouting in this game, but because with 3 Adepts, with 2 Adepts already suspicious, with 3 Adepts they say the confirmation, they're going to be going into a Stargate. That's kind of like, it's not always true, but when you see an Adept opener, especially 2 Adepts, kind of put your mind to that Stargate more than like a Twilight Council opener, which, certainly has been a more popular choice. But some players still bring up that Stargate. Some players love the Stargate, they the Trap in particular. But Creator bringing it out, trying that early game harassment, and you can't even really blame him. If he had, he did want to do what he did. I think this was his plan from the get-go. But if he hadn't, and only one adept was like, hey, there's a lot of defense here. You can't really blame him for continuing on with the attack. So behind this, he grabs a third Nexus. This might seem a little greedy, but he knows exactly what his opponent is doing and how many units he has. So not greedy at all. The only thing he has to worry about is this Widowmine drop, which should not be getting very much. Phoenix, however, not in position, not so much to destroy the medevac before it unloads, but to lift these Widowmines so they can't get the shot off. But one probe, oh Jesus, okay, just one probe is also a fair trade, and the Phoenixes will certainly make it to the medevac. Cannot get away, neither the Widowmine. So it is usually not good, I would say, to go ahead and drop against a Stargate opener, but you know, there's not always a case where they get Phoenix. Of course, a lot of Protoss actually only get one, maybe two Oracles, and then maybe a Phoenix to kind of check around, since their sight is limited around their own bases. If the Oracle misses the arm moving out or the medevac's moving out, they're limited. But in this case, created to get 3 Phoenix, and that was not the greatest Widowmine drop, but it's not really too much of a sunken cost there. As expensive as that medevac is, as much as you want it to come on home, help out with the future push, it's also something that Terran players have gotten really used to no longer, getting a lot of value from. But you get some scouting, and that's always nice. So 2 Vikings to help ward away any Oracle pressure or the Phoenix. The best thing about Vikings for the last 10 years of StarCraft 2 has always been their range. So does that make them the best unit ever? No, there's some valid complaints there about each race's go-to anti-air, but Vikings certainly had range on their side if they were just a little bit more microable, which kind of happened in the form of the health boost, and then I guess they're getting another health boost with the proposed changes. But anyways. Stasis Trap to stop the command center is always a little cheeky. Dream playing a very defensive game. With the opening the way it was, it might have triggered him to play more defensive, or maybe his plan was to always go for a fairly quick third CC, kind of coming back into fashion as Terrans get more comfortable in that mid to late game against Protoss. That EMP upgrade ended up being a huge deal in this matchup. But look at this, Creator already ready to go for an attack. He's got charge, he's got +1 armor, where Dream's still waiting on his 1/1 stim and combat shields. All of these upgrades just slightly delayed. They're not going to be here. This is an attack that's going to work. A Warp Prism is also available. So if the first attack does its job, then it's going to be an easy peasy win for Creator. And I think that's gonna be what happens here. Phoenix lift up the tanks, which weren't even necessarily that helpful against a bunch of charge lots. The charge lots get on top of the second tank, and this command center is taking quite a beating, and yeah, Dream just taps out. Not the most amazing of a first game. Dream just getting absolutely beaten in that early game with the lack of bunker. Adepts not being cleaned up very quickly, and could not hold against a very swift follow-up attack from Creator. All right, into game number 2. I am joined by my best feline buddy, Apollo. So excuse any brushes against the mic and all that. But we are already well into the game. I am a fan of not doing an introduction every single game, just once per series. So I can go right into talking about how the SCV was immediately sent forward here. Winter's Gate, because of the interference, Matrices doesn't actually have that short of a rush distance. I would say it doesn't have that short of a rush distance from mid-natural to mid-natural, but if you take these thirds, then actually it is quite short. But anyways, it's still one of the smaller maps that we have, right? So we're going to have a proxy on it, but I think that there's a lot of maps that still would have allowed Dream to go ahead and try and get some serious revenge for that last game and how it opened up. What Creator did last game with the Adepts and the Oracle isn't actually the cheesiest thing in the world. Speaking of cheesy, but it is very frustrating and can sometimes feel like just a gimmick, like, okay, you're really talented, you threw Adepts at me. So I'm not saying that Dream is not used to being a little bit Protoss and always holds some type of revenge in his mind, but I always wonder if it's a little bit of what's going on. At the very least, you can say that it gains people momentum back. Momentum being a huge deal in these best ofs, but Creator looking to capitalize on momentum, right? You've got that first game. It was a very clean kill. The initial harassment went well, the defense against the medevac went well, and then the attack was quite perfectly timed for all those upgrades were finished. Not that they would have made maybe a big enough difference, but so he's looking to just continue with that early pressure. Certainly saw that there was a weakness to it from Dream, but now he's going to see that Dream perhaps going to be a bit better off against early pressure because there's not going to be very susceptible command centers to try and halt, right? Or production that's still being built. The production's done. The barracks is pumping out that Reaper, and it is going to go back home. Now, Dream does not quite realize. No, he does. Okay, so with the scout from the SCV that proxied, obviously seeing no Nexus is a little bit of a tell, but he did go into the main base first and foremost and got the whole shebang there, saw the timings on almost everything, perhaps the lack of the second gas, and should realize that there is a second gateway. Now, the Reaper takes care of the probe. He's going to find not the Zealot, but unfortunately the Stalker. The Zealot was built back here to help take care of what was inevitably going to be an engineering bay block. You do start to bank a few minerals as someone going for one base, 1-1-1, but more importantly, it's actually just a really annoying thing for the Protoss to have to deal with. It delays the first gateway's units from coming on over, because if the Zealot was, say, over here, making its way downtown, and again, you weren't proxying and you didn't have a bunker on the high ground, then you're in a bit of trouble. But with the bunker on the high ground, with the way these things have opened, I mean, it's a very awkward game to call, and it kind of comes down to who gets to, how to say, like, who gets to poke and prod more, right? But the Cyclone is hopefully going to take away the power of creators poking and prodding, even though you have to be very careful with it. Whereas a Reaper, I can't say really is that great at containing. I was hesitant to use the word contain initially, because it's not always about the contain, I feel. It's about actually being able to get, like, little bits of damage, get that Reaper, get that one SCV that tries to go on the low ground, get those two probes. Reaper, again, can't really kill any units, but 2 Stalkers, now 3 Stalkers, and a Zealot to soak the shot. Dream has to be very careful with the Cyclone. This is going to be easier for the Protoss to defend against for a little while here, because there's nothing to support the Cyclone if everything goes to plan. Now, Reaper grenades, something that I personally am not very good with using, could be a difference maker, but as you can see, the Cyclone knows how tender it is, right? Like, it's got fragile bones. As soon as it's touched, it's like, ow, oofy. The Stalkers will absolutely take it down, even though there's only 3 of them. And unfortunately, with the that restriction, the Cyclone can't actually chase these units to get that confirmed kill. The Cyclone should be repaired every time. The repair is faster than the shield regen, so right, theoretically, and I keep on going here, and then Dream should be able to break out. But now a 4th Stalker is here, increasing the chance the Cyclone will be killed as soon as it steps down. But here comes the big brother of the Cyclone from that factory. It's the tank, and there's not much the Stalkers can do about the tank. But I guess the Cyclone is one of those things that is kind of a safeguard against anything. So, not that I think Dream was expecting a Stargate, because he did get some scouting on that Nexus, but it could have happened instead of a Twilight Council, which is actually what Crater's doing. So, a Cyclone would have solved, like, a couple of those follow-up problems that can actually kill you, or will do more damage, whereas the problem, as it was just, oh, I'm contained, which a tank first would have probably done a bit better. But anyways, Stalkers and Zealots still trying to find what they can. Certainly Marines can go down here. Cyclone, again, as I said, can go down, but oh no! Maybe thinking that first tank, or the second tank rather, was the first tank, tries to dive for that Cyclone, loses mega health on these Stalkers, and will be losing another one. I think that's 3 out of 5. Was it? Something along those lines. Yeah, exactly. And that Zealot, which I keep mentioning, but actually isn't that important. It literally was there to soak damage, and it did its job to a degree. But that was a brutal attempt to try and kill that Cyclone. Perfect bait, really, but I think there also might have, again, been a little bit of like, oh, the tank is unsieged. Definitely go for it. Well, that was actually the second tank. Now we got a bunker and some wall being built here. Dream coming back into StarCraft 2, and obviously there's going to be a learning curve even for the past professionals, but he really picked up quite quickly back into it, and then also brought a little bit of his own flavor, which I'm really enjoying. But Blink is done, so hold that thought. Lots of stalkers coming in. Bunker is going to try to be repaired, but actually it's not the ones being targeted. The tank was targeted, and that is actually going to be it, because that was actually really all in from Crater, and Dream held. It doesn't look like it, but even with a proxy gateway, there's still not going to be enough stalkers warped in to actually break what was left over here. Cyclone would have gone down, but then so many Marines, and Marauder would have been done. Stim was done. Kind of an anti-timing this time. But oof, ow. Yeah, Crater going for that 6 gateway stalker attack, which I believe the Reaper did see. So that's also why Dream was preparing the wall in the bunker. But just to finish my one thought, Dream has been bringing in some excellent defense against Protoss players. It sounds really weird, but even the fact that he's been bringing back the third bunkering up of the third is unique to him. You know, every Terran player besides him seems to be like, I don't need to bunker up my third, I'll be fine. And then, you know, Zealots come into the third. So awesome to see that his defensive play style, well, especially in this game because he literally scouted he was going to be attacked, works out, and we go to a game number 3. All right, we got a game number 3 on World of Sleepers. Not exactly a large map in terms of rush distance. Again, hitting that kind of middle map compared to, let's see here. I do believe shortest might still be Winter's Gate. Can't quite remember. But longest being Disco Bloodbath. But it's not necessarily the rush distance that makes this map feel so large. It is the attack paths and its actual left to right size that makes it feel like it can be very intimidating. But that's more of a versus Zerg problem. TVZ, PVZ. When it comes to TVP, I do believe that there's more ways to play around differently sized maps. Zerg just feels like not only do you have to rally, push across a long distance, so you lose units. You don't have as many units on the front line. That is, you also lose units to counters, to run bys that happen far more often in that matchup, as well as creep spread, right? That just continues to envelop everywhere. And for Protoss players, well, you guys typically have that Warp Prism to help out that reinforcement issue. It still can feel overwhelming because you have to check a lot of different attack paths to make sure you're not being surrounded. But in this matchup, it's a little more just head-to-head, right? We, of course, have to talk about drops from the Terran player, which inevitably happen, even if it's only a single double drop, and it's kind of lame. And we have to talk about Warp Prism. You know, can they get to the back lines here? Yes, they can. A lot of space to maneuver around. It'd have to be 1, 2, 3 missile turrets to truly cover everything. But when it comes to those engagements, it is usually head-to-head, just sending out a couple Marines to scout forward, or in the Protoss's case, having what I would expect to be observers, but could be oracles, depending on how Crater wants to open up this game. So, like this is the third map. In the Elima League, there are only 5 maps. I'm not quite sure which ones were taken out of the map pool. I'll be casting Elima League later this week, and I'll know then, but I haven't checked for this purpose. I guess I could go quickly check. It's not that difficult. With the power of technology, I just have to Alt-Tab here. You'd think it would be that easy, but I guess it's not. Oh, there we go. So, the ones that are available are Disco Bloodbath, Ephemeron, Triton, Winter's Gate, and World of Sleepers. Which right now I can't think of the other maps if you gave me like $100. So, anyways, current ladder maps. There we go. That helps. Thanks, Wikipedia. So Acropolis is not in the map pool, and Thunderbird's not in the map pool. So they took away the ones from last season. Anyways, but it is that first map is chosen by the bracket, by Holy Moly, who makes the bracket, and then it is loser's pick from that. So in the case of Creator losing game number 2, he was the one that chose this map, and what are the plans for it? Stargate opener is different than what I was expecting. I personally am a huge fan of watching the Twilight Council opener, which is why Zest is one of my favorite players. That's also how I play Protoss and find a lot of usefulness in it, but Stargate is going to be a classic for a long time, probably. It's probably going to exist forever until there's a very severe change in the meta. Oracle first, Cyclone first. So this will be dealt with pretty easily. It's always possible the Cyclone's in the wrong position, But ever since the Oracle got turned into a 3-shot against SCVs, you were no longer suddenly down 6 workers because you were slightly out of position. So pretty good defense. The Cyclone, I believe, will be staying back. It's possible that he tries to use it aggressively after seeing the Adept openers, but seeing the Adept openers, talked about it in that first game, you should be suspicious that it's going to be a Stargate. And Dream did not build a Reaper this time. Only reason he built a Reaper last time, because he was proxying. All he scouted was the, oh no, he did build a Reaper. I thought that was an SCV, but then, it's all the way over there. So he doesn't get into the main base, but sees, I think, what he needs to see. Again, with those Adepts, they can be an awfully big tail. Reaper does die, at least gets a probe. Oracle is shooed away by the Cyclone. 3rd CC, I believe, was scouted, however, which is still nice for that opener. It gives you a very good idea of what timing you have to be worried about. Getting a 3rd CC, depending on how you form the rest of your production, can be like 30 seconds to a minute later on those pushes compared to the, like, 2 base alternatives, right? That seems to be the kind of the case. I'm not going to say that's every single build order. There's a lot of them, right? But it's kind of around those times that it gets pushed off. And for Protoss players who are now getting more used to seeing 3rd CC builds, I'm guessing Creator knows exactly what to search for that timing. Plus, with having an Oracle for Revelation and a couple of Phoenix, he should just be able to see those medevacs. And that medevac timing is the attack timing. 9 times out of 10 with a, that 1 3 racks 2 base build that kind of messes that rule up. I guess it's kind of a StarCraft rule. Anyways, Starport is on the way. Single upgrade this game. In that very first game, he did try and go for double upgrades. Didn't matter. He was attacked before they could finish. 3rd Nexus is done for our Protoss and a pretty even worker count, which means that this is great for the Terran player, as you are expected to kind of be more like 8 workers down, not 4. And maybe even more, to be honest. Yeah, all rhymed. I'm going to say I'm not a poet. I know that much, but for a brief second there I was. 3rd CC taken on the high ground. So this is one of those cool things that I immediately noticed on the map when I first saw it. I was like, oh, I guess like eventually maybe the meta will evolve, or, certain styles will want this high ground. Like Mech, I feel, would want to do it. And Protoss maybe, but the tricky thing about Protoss, especially in this matchup, is that you do want a pretty darn fast 3rd Nexus. And waiting to mine out the minerals doesn't really give you that. Hello? Okay. Alright, we'll die eventually. But anyways, you mine out the minerals, suddenly you got this little triangle pattern that is typically favorable in StarCraft for expanding. Ooh, good target fire on the Oracle, and she slowed down a little bit. I think she was dead either way. But nice little pick-off right there. We got a scan coming down, perhaps in the 3rd base. Okay. Typically where that army is, if you know they have a 3rd base, but it kind of misses the edge of the army there. Kind of funny. I think I saw a couple of the Zealots, and you would maybe expect some charge follow-up because of the previous game. 2 previouss. But it's not. Oh, charge is done. Okay. But I'm more focused on, like, well, it's definitely not going to be that attack, right? That we saw kind of around this time, wasn't it? No, we have the technology on the way, more Phoenix being built, and that technology is going to be Colossus. So a very, very useful upgrade to have in general is going to be the EMP upgrade. Ghosts are good in general. They're especially good against something like Zealot Phoenix or Adept Phoenix, if that ever comes back. But it's also just something that you can absolutely afford when you have such a fast 3rd CC, and that's kind of where we usually see a delay in those ghosts, is because you don't have this supercharged economy that can afford all the production plus what are still pretty expensive ghosts. But this first attack is going to be a pretty good one, really. This is a decent number of bio. 12 armor supply ahead for Dream. Woodamine's looking for those perfect shots, and that's exactly what Creator does not want to have happen, especially if it is both the Zealots and his Phoenix. He's actually in a world of trouble here. 2 Colossus still not ready to go. Just a tad late to this defense, but here comes the Observer with the Phoenix. Pick up those Woodamines, at least take them out of the equation, but that's not enough Zealots. He put all of his minerals into those Zealots, and then the 2 Colossus that still aren't here, and it's not going to be enough. If the Colossus aren't part of the equation, the Zealots have to be alive to protect the Colossus, otherwise the Colossus will be pounced on, and the Phoenix will try desperately to lift up what they can, but will it be enough? More Zealots warped in here. I believe that Sentry was used a couple force fields or something like that, so it didn't have a Guardian Shield to help, which would have been absolutely helpful, but it's not going to help here, as the Zealots do clean up every last Marine. That Colossus barely survives the Marauder attempt to actually pick it off, and it gets it with that last Marauder. This one gonna die as well, and the Medivacs will lose all of their lives to the Phoenix, which were not touched except for that EMP. That takes away their shields. It doesn't actually kill them. That many units probably not gonna kill them fast enough, but Creator does back away, doesn't want to try and play around these units. I guess Ghost also going to be some nice anti-air DPS, and that was the wiser move there. But that was a perfect attack from Dream. Scans ahead, sees that there's not enough to defend, certainly not enough force field to try and wall this gigantic choke off. It was like 1, maybe 2 sentries. And that was right before the Colossus rod. If there's 2 Colossus out with all that army, then it's, you know, he'll try maybe get a concave and take an okay engagement, but it's going to look a lot worse. He might even just wait for the EMPs, and then that's another 20 seconds or whatever it was. And that's a very, very different fight. But that was excellent for Dream. It's not game ending. A lot of the probes still survived. They were pulled to the left side. Nexus obviously still survived. Just a little bit of hull health taken away there. And we do have a 4th Nexus for Creator. But Dream, already on his way to a 4th command center, is not too far behind even Workers right now. And this will be a planetary. Nice missile turret right there. This will be a planetary, so that now this is one of those things that where if he does make an oopsie daisy type of attack, like I shouldn't have done that, he can kind of retreat back into the planetary. If he's afraid that the Colossus are going to be that tech bump that Creator can now use to go for an attack, the planetary again might be able to just barely hold as his Viking count continues to grow, because that's really where his weakness is right now. If he didn't take such a good trade with the Zealots, you know, if there was all that army left over plus the Colossus, yeah, Dream does not have a response to Colossus. But taking one down, only 1 left alive, and then Creator goes into Disruptors, not into further Colossus. No, he bought the second one, okay. And a couple Immortals. I do really like the Immortals, but then into the Disruptors. It's usually that 3 Colossus stopping point nowadays. Good defense against this so far. Phoenix can't lift the Widowmine. They were EMP'd. Doesn't really matter. Very unsaturated main base. Is it unsaturated? Desaturated? Desaturated. I'm not sure that really works in this. Okay, one of those. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. So Dream has to be careful not to overmake Vikings. He has to recognize that there's not a lot of Colossus. There's not even 3 Colossus, as I was pointing out. 3 was what probably Creator had in mind before going into Disruptors and Immortals, but was cut down to just 2. Is comfortable with that number, and he might catch Dream, which is a few more Vikings than he really would need, but this kind of looks like a perfect amount. Now going back to that Medivac production, which he definitely wants more than 2, 4 being, again, one of those other soft rules of StarCraft with Terran players. 4 Medivacs, and then build whatever else you want. Not a very strict rule, but certainly in TvP that's been the case, so gotta get those back in there. Marine steps forward, saw the glowy balls of death, maybe even saw how many Immortals there are. Don't underestimate the Immortals adding a punch there. But this is without a Warp Prism? Warp Prism, oh, off to the side, okay, just waiting, just chilling. Disruptors going forward. There are only 2 Disruptors, so as soon as both shoot their shot, and those perfect splits against that. Oh, there's third one comes from behind. But that one also not getting any type of good shot means that they're useless. They're a useless part of the army supply. Always got to consider that. But they also can be absolutely worth it if they get to the center of that army and completely stop Dream dead in his tracks. Now, while this was happening, a DT was warped in as a Dark Shrine had finished while I was talking about those Colossus. And does a bit of damage, but a good response here from Dream. This game, not bothering with the bunker at the 3rd, probably thinking it was pretty safe where it was, but maybe wants to go ahead and do that. And we do have a little bit of a drop, finding that Warp Prism accidentally. Warp Prism not hotkeyed with the rest of the army is usually a good move, but in this case, he just forgot about it. Not going to be used for harassment either. Some of the army leaves for a couple of Zealots, maybe a High Templar do get taken out. DTs try to be warped in, but the scan is good, and that is a waste of minerals. High Templars without Storm coming through here. EMPs, where are you for the rest of the Storms? They're actually on the front line, so he's got to chase through them. He's got to bring them back. He wants to actually take a fight, but I don't think he wants to take a fight. His army is going to be very stimmed. There's the EMP, but not on the High Templars, on the rest of the army. So the Storm is good on the Vikings, and Disruptors going every which way. One dies, but two get their shots off. Not the greatest shots. The Colossus does barely live. Meanwhile, the attack to the south is going to be cleaned up by a bunch of Zealots. I believe that's going to be just barely good enough. Well, these two Zealots are being awfully lazy. But back on the top side, the attack is forced to retreat. Very close to losing that medevac with 4 Marauders. No, 2 Marauders and 2 Ghosts. It's so expensive. Oh, how did that not die? Oh, no. Creator was, I think, paying attention to the Zealots to the bottom side, so we didn't quite snipe that medevac. So many expensive units barely surviving. EMP on what is a very, very small Protoss army that probably should not be out here in the open as Dream re-rallies his production to the top side. The Immortal goes down. The Colossus look to be next, but here comes the rest of the Protoss army. The Zealots from the south, the Phoenix from the right side, and more Immortals that were being bulked up in the natural come forward. And that is going to be it for the medevacs. Dream desperately trying to escape here. He's got so many Ghosts, but it just looks like an expensive army that's about to die to me. But the EMPs are good. Their damage can actually be very significant, and they take out a lot of those Zealots on the front line. Concave's going to go in favor of our boy Dream here as he continues to rally his production forward desperately. That Protoss army is looking absolutely huge, and it is going to go for that third base, not quite to the planetary. 3 Disruptors are going to safeguard the attack as well in a way. Exactly, Dream cannot actually go up that ramp, so command centers will be lost, but Creator also has to be wary about that Terran production. If he gets surrounded with more army than he anticipated, he could be in a world of trouble, so he's being very, very cautious. DT is taken out. Not too much to be done there. Right side is safe, but behind all of this action, they both are on pretty good economies. Disruptor, oh my god, is barely sniped at the last second there. That was going to be a nasty, nasty hit. I keep looking at these Ghosts. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh my god, that's going to be so many Ghosts dead here, but they're actually packing a punch and holding the line. I am very surprised by that. Haven't talked about upgrades in a while, but they are kind of even in a way, and 3-3 is about to be finished, but not quite here for this fight. And the fight is actually a very interesting one. Initially on the right side, it looked so good with the Concave, but the rest of the units from the left side, Disruptors not exactly getting the best shots there. That one completely misses. Vikings not being taken out will finally take down this one Colossus. No, not quite. War Prism reinforcing with a bunch of Zealots. That Protoss army looking quite mighty, but Dream's army just big enough with the help of that planetary to force Creator to pull back. Creator still pumping up the Immortals. I really like that choice. Not only going to help against those Marauders, and also busting down the planetary, and just in general, they're very good at soaking that damage, being those things that you don't quite notice until all your Marauders are dead, and it's still alive with the, name really working out for the Immortal. Pop those shields maybe with an EMP, then that's easy peasy, but if you don't, and they actually get to soak as much damage as they want, that Protoss army just lives forever. Continued expansions, continued harassment. Dream getting right back on top of things. Is now looking to take the aggression to his opponent, looking to split the map a little bit, and looks like Creator does not have any vision to that right side. He has a DT waiting for an expansion, but it's actually expanding to the top side. This orbital was one of the extras over here, but he is planning to use that as his attack and defense, so he feels like he can go ahead and get away with an orbital, not a planetary. This army is looking quite small on the bottom side compared to what is the majority of Creator's army. It's like a 50-50 split for the Terran, but a 75-25 split for the Protoss. His 25 is up here, but it is splash, so the Ghost control has to be good. It's very tricky when they start to spread out those High Templars. Do you snipe them? Sniping doesn't work. Do you try an EMP? Use all 4 EMPs on them? I don't know. 3-3 is done, by the way, guys, for Dream. Creator now has 3-2, I believe. No shields. Good Storm right there, but not enough to kill what is a very, very bulky army with a lot of medevacs. Centaur is coming down as well to safeguard Dream's continued expansion process. As he comes through here with a Concave on top of the Storms, he's just going to go ahead and survive through them, as opposed to trying to take them out with the EMPs gone. And no attempt to snipe the High Templars. That's a very, very weak army, but it is absolutely working. And the amount of medevacs he brought with this army is working absolute wonders. Sentry's going to go down, Immortal's going to go down, but that was for Immortals, and they are going to be able to punch through that Marauder heavy force pretty quickly. But this is now an opening to the bottom side. Vikings looking for any Colossus that could be rebuilt. Was the one still alive? No, it finally went down. So the Vikings probably better off either defending against Warp Prisms or even just landed on the ground. They really aren't too bad. The force that was defending the top side is thinking about attacking. I don't think that's a good call. Unfortunately for Creator, he really doesn't know where his opponent is reinforcing to. There's actually a distinct lack of vision from our Protoss player. We have a nuke being called down, a second Ghost Academy on the way, and Cloak did finish up there. I'm not sure where the nuke is coming down here. There it is, actually. He sees it. Creator pulls the probes, so not going to be the most damage. Another nuke comes down over here. However, we already had two. Oh, okay, I missed the second. Oh, it's a third Ghost Academy. There you go. EMP on top of the Immortals means they're going to be taken down very, very quickly, but here comes the rest of the Protoss army, and the Medivacs are, oh my god, there's so many Medivacs. They use their boost, so it's actually not going to be too useful to retreat. But good stutter stepping here. There's not a lot of range here. Those Colossus to help out. So stutter stepping around that bend ended up being extremely effective. EMP is going to once again be blanketed, but EMPs after a while just end up, oh my god, so much blood. EMPs, once you've hit all the units with the EMP, it's not really, you know, it's not actually extra damage to do another EMP. So sometimes it looks a little repetitive. It feels like you're doing something really important, but then you're like, oh, they didn't have any shields in the first place. They do start regaining their shields, of course, but that takes a little while. In this case, there were still some units that did not get all of their EMP, all of the shields EMP'd. There's only a certain amount, so. Still want to have that high ghost count. Still wants to go for the nukes, which are seen. He scans a little bit too late to realize there is an observer. Is that an observer with speed? He actually got, he got speed for both War Prism and Observer. Wow. Okay. Well, that is useful with how much action is going down here. Very mobile game. Another nuke coming down to the south side. Is Creator going to notice as he gets blanketed with EMPs? Even an EMP on this one Colossus. And Disruptor does get some revenge for going down. And, oh, nice High Templar to the top side. A lot of damage taken from that storm. Is nuke good? Nope, nuke was not good. EMP over with the south side. This is something that I absolutely could never do in 1,000 years, by the way, guys. Actually harassing with EMPs hitting. Nope, that's something that I'm just going to watch Dream do and be like, okay, you're much better than I am. And probably everyone watching here, too, should really, really respect how Dream is using his different attacks. Like, this is so... It's not really, like, I want to say it's, like, unnatural. Oh, my god, pick up. Oh, my god, he's actually trying to target down these Disruptors. If they hit, that's not going to work for the last one. Okay. Anyways, going back to the Ghosts. To actually have people send Ghosts and Vikings with different parts of their army and not just one big battle is... It doesn't happen too often. And it really is just a trait of the best Terrans in the world. It's so difficult also that if you do keep in mind, hey, I should bring some Ghosts with this little drop, to actually use the Ghost effectively, that's the next step as well. This fight is a little convoluted. Lots of Zealots coming through here seem to be what's going to maybe solve the problem. Nuke did go down, and oh my god, wait, did I miss a huge nuke? Oh, I think I might have hit a huge nuke. I'm going to actually go back here. Oh, yep, okay, it was pretty good. Not the biggest, but it's pretty good. Nuke gonna kill, like... 13 probes there. Boom. That is very, very cool. And then also does distract the army as they take care of these 3 or 4 units. They're not quite helping this army to the top side. As Dream again controlling very, very well against these pockets of Protoss units. Both of them continuing to upgrade. +1 armor on the way for those Vikings and those Medivacs. I don't think he meant to get the +1 vehicle weapons. Did he have tanks this game? Anyways. And then we also have shields finishing up for our Protoss, which are going to be... actually pretty, I mean, it's another upgrade no matter what. If it's Archon Heavy, great. If it's not, still a very good upgrade to have. Disruptor is taken out there. Again, nice control from Dream. More EMPs, but here comes the Colossus, and that's what's missing. If you start getting beaten by EMPs, you got to recognize that you can transition into another technology, and in this case, that was Colossus, and no Vikings have been made. But as this army finally gets cleaned up, and pretty easily as well, taking whatever it can down with it, there's another army to the top side, taking down a Nexus that was completely undefended. So many skirmishes happening every which way. Creator's been trying to keep up with everything by placing Zealots and High Templars and shield batteries in all of his bases, but he eventually just gets worn down. So another base falls, but the pressure is on top of Dream now as he runs back to his planetary. Does he have any of the upgrades to the building? He does not, but is there enough firepower in this army to take on a planetary and the reinforcements of the Terran player? The immortal count has actually been reduced to just 2, so he's not going to bother. There's also a nuke that he couldn't quite see where that was coming from. Missile turret guarding against the Observer. It's barely alive, but it would probably have died, so the nuke is going to have to either be canceled, or actually it is not. Doesn't quite get the High Templar Templars just damages his own planetary, but one snipe on the High Templars has reduced its numbers to 3. They're turning into a bit of a base trade. Reinforcements were stocked up on the main base, Vikings included. That's what he was missing from that last fight. We have a really good concave coming through here. Not all of Crater's army was together, but even if it was, I think just the concave's too good. Not enough anti-air. One Disruptor gets an amazing hit, but the Colossus are down, the Immortals are down, and the Vikings actually are great against the Mechanicals, so they're going to help take out the last units as well. A couple of units back here for Crater were trying to tackle the army, just blitzing through all of his Nexus, but it was not good enough. Dream takes that final game and will advance on to what was the round of 4, I believe, of the Elima League. That was a fucking brilliant game, guys. That was so cool. Dream. That is just I didn't know this was gonna happen, I swear to God. But when I opened this game on World of Sleepers by talking about how these typically go more into like head-to-head battles, Dream just like entirely proved me wrong. And that is always cool to have a surprise. So I hope you guys enjoyed this cast. Probably the most hype casting we've done in a while. And you'll follow the channel. And I'll definitely be doing more of these as I get more and more time. So thanks all, and I will see you next time for whatever video's up next on this YouTube. See ya!